So one day after President Trump announces to the world that the United States is not going to keep troops in Syria, that he will be pulling them out, Turkey launched an offensive in northern Syria with airstrikes. And I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about a little bit of history as to why Turkey even cares, and what the controversy is between stay or go. And we're going to talk about all that right now. Hi, I'm Kyle. Welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. Now, like I said in my introduction, Turkey launches an offensive in northern Syria with airstrikes. And I want to go over an article from Unbiased Media where they say, breaking news, President Trump releases statement on Turkey's attack on northern Syria. President Trump has released a statement through a White House spokesperson on Turkey launching a military operation in northern Syria. The statement reads, this morning, Turkey, a NATO member, invaded Syria. The United States does not endorse this attack and has made it clear to Turkey that this operation is a bad idea. There are no American soldiers in the area. From the first day I entered the political arena, I made it clear that I did not want to fight these endless, senseless wars, especially those that don't benefit the United States. Turkey has committed to protecting civilians, protecting religious minorities, including Christians, ensuring no humanitarian crisis takes place. And we will hold them to this commitment. In addition, Turkey is now responsible for ensuring all ISIS fighters being held captive remain in prison and that ISIS does not reconstitute in any way, shape, or form. We expect Turkey to abide by all of its commitments, and we continue to monitor the situation closely. Turkey's President Erdogan, meanwhile, has released a statement on Twitter explaining his country's actions. The Turkish armed forces, together with the Syrian National Army, just launched Operation Peace Spring against PKK, YPG, Kurds, and the Daesh ISIS terrorists in northern Syria. Our mission is to prevent the creation of a terror corridor across our southern border and to bring peace to the area. Okay, so here's the area. Okay, this is called Rojava. Okay, this area here. This is northern Syria, southern Turkey. Now, the situation, give you a high level, Turkey has been at war with a group of radical terrorist Kurds called the PKK, okay? They've been fighting these people since the 80s, okay? So they're afraid that their southern border is going to be destabilized once the United States pulls out. And they're going to go in there and clean house because they've been at war. So that's the deal there. But the question is, why is that? Let's go to what President Trump said today. He said in a tweet today, the United States has spent $8 trillion fighting and policing in the Middle East. Thousands of our great soldiers have died or have been badly wounded. Millions of people have died on the other side. Going into the Middle East is the worst decision ever made in the history of our country. And so the president basically is staying by his decision. And the question is, what is that decision? Before we get into that, let's actually talk about what is going on over there. And I tweeted yesterday that if you think you know what's going on in Syria, you don't. In fact, nobody does. It's a very convoluted, dangerous situation. It's a proxy war. We have countries sending troops, supplies, whatever, into an area in hopes that they can get benefit out of it. So I'm going to try and keep this at the highest level that I understand it so you guys can understand. Now, I'm going to put a link to this below. So, when Saddam Hussein was deposed, that area became a vacuum. A lot of people were not happy with Saddam Hussein, but one thing he did do was keep that region stabilized. Even though he was a dictator and did a lot of bad things, he did at least have that in terms of that area. But once he went away, it became a vacuum and things started happening, and it attracted a lot of different groups coming in for that particular area. ISIS is one of them, okay? And so this picture here, you have Hezbollah, Russia, Iran, Assad. These groups are more or less in their own separate group. They're allies, more or less, okay? And so you have down here, the Kurds by themselves, they're freedom fighters, whatever, and they were fighting ISIS pretty heavily over here, and they're by themselves. The ISIS had their own caliphate, and ISIS didn't like anybody else. They didn't like Hezbollah or Al Qaeda or whatever. And then you had over here, the key part is the rebels. And who are the rebels? So essentially what happened was when the Arab Spring happened in 2011, there were some protests, okay? Those protests split out into rebels who were anti-Syria and Assad who was trying to depose the rebels. Okay, and so in doing so, this basically became a civil war. And once that civil war happened, you had Syria backed by Assad, and you had the rebels who were anti-Assad, anti-Syria, so forth. So what happened was different groups came into the area to support the rebels, okay? And so what Assad did was he released a lot of jihadists out of prison to kind of muddy the waters. And so you had a bunch of extremists uprising and just became really volatile. And so from there, Turkey had an issue with the Kurds, as I mentioned before, with the PKK. So they didn't like the Kurds. ISIS didn't like the Kurds because a lot of them were Christian and so forth. I'm not sure why these groups didn't like each other, but just take it for what it is. That's what it is. They don't like each other. You can go find for yourself what those history is for those particular groups. And then, of course, you had the United States didn't like ISIS, so we were trying to back anyone against ISIS. So that would basically be the Kurds. So the United States backed the Kurds. And so from there, Turkey bombs the Kurds. And, of course, America didn't like that. We didn't like Assad. And so from that point on, you had this thing going on with Turkey and the Kurds and ISIS and the rebels fighting Assad. You have different countries coming in. You had Hezbollah coming in. Different countries have different reasons for wanting to be involved in this. From the U.S. perspective, all we cared about was getting rid of ISIS. And so we were there for that. And so we ended up bombing things that was tied to some allies who weren't allies. Russia was in there as well. And it got really crazy. At the end of the day, it comes down to this, is that Turkey has an opportunity to go into an area to secure its southern border. The United States doesn't want to be involved in it anymore because ISIS is pretty much defeated. The caliphate is gone. And President Trump made a campaign promise that he was going to pull our troops out. We're spending too much money on this. And so here we have this is where the situation is here. There's a pocket of ISIS here, but that's not the caliphate, more or less, because that's been wiped out. But there are still pockets of ISIS running around. Okay, and they're worried about this area growing because they're worried about their own stability because they don't like these terrorist organizations. PKK is a terrorist organization recognized by NATO. They don't want them getting bigger. So Turkey has that on their side. That's what they're saying that they're really trying to prevent. And so let's go to an article here where Tucker Carlson, this is from the Daily Caller. He says, "We'd love to tell you just the lefty hacks on CNN demanding that we stay in Syria forever. But unfortunately, it was not even close. A ton of Republicans on Capitol Hill made it exactly the same point. Among Republicans that Tucker called out were Majority Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, former ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley, Republican Lindsey Graham, and Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney, and Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse. All of them seemed far angrier about the prospect of leaving Syria than you'd ever do about illegal immigration or Americans dying of fentanyl or overdoses." Okay. Nikki Haley tweeted earlier today, "We must always have the backs of our allies if we expect them to have our back. The Kurds were instrumental in our successful fight against ISIS in Syria. Leaving them to die is a big mistake." Tucker says, "Turkey's not our friend?" he asked. That's a surprise to those of us who have been paying attention because it was barely a year ago that official Washington, everybody, was outraged. They were savaging the president for the crime of undermining NATO. Tucker concluded by calling out Republican leaders' seeming indifference towards the hundreds of thousands of drug deaths taking place, claiming that they shrug and couldn't care less. Trump has repeatedly, both as presidential candidate and during his tenure in office, promised to withdraw troops from the Middle East and to put an end to what he claims are endless wars. So Tucker's position is this, is that you guys are you're acting, outraged over this, but you don't want to talk about the issues here in America with fentanyl, with illegal immigration, and you're getting mad at the president for something that he promised he would do before he even got elected. Okay? So he's standing by his decision. You're getting mad at him for something that you knew was coming. The issue of, now I'm not going to talk about the issue of leaving the Kurds to die, because that is I guess a valid point. But Trump is saying that he expects Turkey to uphold their commitment to not do that. And so that's the president's side. Yes, we're pulling out, but Turkey, a NATO partner, needs to abide by their promise that they're not going to cause the area to be destabilized and to do humanitarian crimes. Okay, that's the positive approach to pulling out. The negative approach that I've seen, article here, this is from the Daily Caller as well. This is basically from Fox News. Shepard Smith, and he suggests that a motivation behind Donald Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria is due to politics of distraction. And so what I'm seeing basically is the two arguments on the stay argument is this. Either we're going to pull out and we're going to let the Kurds die. They're our allies. They were really good fighters, which they are. And they helped us defeat ISIS over there. We can't leave our allies to die. That's the argument. Okay. The first argument. The second argument is it's a conspiracy theory. Trump's trying to wag the dog. He's just doing whatever. And so let's take the first one we've kind of already talked about. The first one. Pulling out is leaving our allies to hang. That's a very valid argument. But to the White House's defense, and what they're saying is that Turkey needs to abide by their humanitarian commitments and promise not to do anything negative against the Kurds. Now, that group of Kurds, that the PKK, are a subsect of the Kurds. They're Kurdish, but they're Kurdish terrorists. And so that's the situation there. It's not all of the Kurds. Many of the Kurds are peaceful people. It's just that this section of the Kurds, the PKK, they are a radical terrorist wing of the Kurds. It's just, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on. The second argument is that it's a conspiracy theory and that Trump is just trying to wag the dog. He's trying to have distraction. Well, what can you say about that? I mean, you can always bring up a conspiracy. And so, but the solid argument against that is that Trump has been saying he was going to do this since 2015, since the beginning of his election, the endless wars and so forth. And so that's kind of where we are. And I know this video is maybe a little bit jumpy and kind of, whatever. I put this together at the last minute, but I wanted to actually talk about this because, a lot of people are going to be split on this. Conservatives are going to be split on this. And just understand that this is a very, very complicated situation. It's a very, very complicated region of the world. It's just terrible. And the United States, it really needs to, my opinion personally, we need to abide by our allies, but at the same time, look at ourselves first. If atrocities happen, we need to take that as they come, but we can't be policing the world. We need to bring our troops home like we said he was going to do. People voted for Trump for that very reason. Trump, he prides himself in doing what he says he's going to do, and none of this should come as a surprise to anybody. So with that, let me know what you think about this. Comment on what I said. Please, if I said anything incorrectly, let me know. I will correct it in a comment or whatever, or another video. I'm just trying to put something out there to give you the information, to kind of give you something to jump into so that you can kind of dig for yourself. Also, if you like the content on this channel, we take culture, TV, and movies, and we filter it right. Please hit that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. And as always, please click on some videos that I have right here.